Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Carvel Community Meeting. Today's date is October 12th, 2022. If you're watching this from home and want to come join us live, we meet every second and fourth Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's a good opportunity for you to come and meet the team, meet other members of the community, ask questions, listen in on what the team's working on. And if you have any feedback, or if you have any suggestions on what you would like to see from Carvel, you can do that as well. And for those that are here today, and if you have a discussion topic, please be sure to add that at the bottom of the agenda right here in the discussion topic section, and we will get to it towards the end of the meeting. If you can't come and join us live, you can still find us in other areas to reach us. So you can find us in the Carvel channel, in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. You can email us. You can find us on GitHub with any of our project repos. And you can find us on Twitter at Carvel_dev. If at any point you're interacting with us or any other members of the community, we ask that you please read and abide by our code of conduct. If you are using any of the Carvel tools, we want to know more details about how you are using this, like any of the Carvel tools. So we've created this pinned issue that asks you to provide some details about your company, how you're using Carvel, how can we reach you, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also add your logo in your comment so that we can add it to the adopters page, which is optional, but we would love to promote you on our adopters page as an adopter of Carvel. And then all those that are attending today, please be sure to add your name and any organization you represent so that we can keep track of those who are outside of VMware that are coming to our meeting. Moving on to announcements. So Carvel is going to be at this little conference called KubeCon in about 2 weeks. So we're super excited. We have a couple of areas where we will be. I know that outside of this, we are working on some opportunities to be at the tag app delivery booth so that Carvel can do some demos there, and as well as the VMware booth. But once we have more details there, I can share it here. Otherwise, we have a co-located session at GitOpsCon Tuesday, October 25th, 4:15 to 4:45 p.m. And that's experimenting with Q and Carvel to enable GitOps for your applications with Dimitri and Rupa. Then for the main show, we have on Wednesday, October 26th, 9:40 to 9:45. We are doing a keynote, and Rupa is going to be delivering that. And it's beyond automation. Kubernetes success requires a GitOps mindset. So if you are attending KubeCon and any of the co-located sessions, we encourage you to come and hang out with us and listen in and meet the team. Okay, moving on to content. So since last meeting, Brett Fisher posted this podcast for DevOps and Docker Carvel tools for Kubernetes. We also had a video tutorial done by Robusta Dev. Just as a recap on that, Robusta is doing a 100 Kubernetes tool initiative and going through all the different tools of Carvel in addition to several other Kubernetes tools out there. So the other one that we had done was with YTT. And this one right here that was just recently published is kapp for kubectl apply on steroids. So be sure to check that out and keep an eye out for the additional tutorials that come out from Robusta. And moving on to the third one, we have a blog that was posted, The Hidden Costs of Misconfiguration by John and Varsha. I believe this was going over, was it YTT validations or?
That's it, yeah. Yep.
Do you want to talk more about this?
Sure, just that part of what we're highlighting in this post that coincides with our release of YTT 0.43, which includes generally available data values validations. And this talks about why do you even care? So it's a short read, but hopefully helps you understand where do validations fit in.
Awesome. So be sure to give that a read and let us know if you have any questions. Thanks, John. All right, moving on to upcoming content on October 12th, which is today. Is that accurate? Is it coming? I believe so. Varsha, do you want to, is this where you wanted to showcase your video and highlight a little bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. So let me share my screen. Are you all able to see the screen? And so this is the YTT Getting Started tutorial series we are trying to get here. This is especially for someone who is coming to Carvel and YTT and trying to understand YTT and just coming there for the first time and trying to figure out what YTT is, what it is doing, and how they can just get started. Because sometimes the documentation and here, like there are a lot of things they have to go through, but this is a video where they can just quickly get started. We will upload it along with timestamps, so they can just directly jump to whatever section they want to learn about and learn from there. And then the part 2 and part 3 will come for some details about other features of YTT. So I'll just play a part of this video. For first 5 minutes, it is the introduction to YTT, what problems YTT is trying to solve. And then we'll jump into playground examples. So yeah, let's get started here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the series of Carvel YTT Getting Started tutorials. We are going to take a tour of many YTT features through real-world examples. So let's get started. Today's agenda is Introduction to YTT, what problems is YTT solving, and demo, see YTT in action. So what is YTT? YTT is a YAML templating tool. YAML is a data serialization language that is widely used for writing configuration files. What is meant by templating? Templating a static configuration file means extracting parts that I know my end user will likely want to change or add logic to. But why do you need templating at all? And what problems is YTT solving? So when you are working with Kubernetes configurations and you are dealing with a lot of YAML, trying to maintain your configurations for different environments like prod, QA, staging, you may see a lot of boilerplate code. And on top of that, say if you want to get some user inputs and update few configurations per environment, then you need to keep tracking, maintaining, and updating various YAML configuration files over and over again. So if you want to reduce the boilerplate and make your configurations reusable and extensible, solution here is YTT, templating. YTT helps reduce the boilerplate by extracting values to variables, extracting repeated YAML fragments to functions, and extracting larger chunks to separate files. Another advantage is like, are you tired of counting spaces and indentations to make sure you have valid YAML and repeating this for each and every configuration file? What if you have thousands of YAML files? YTT templating is useful for avoiding parsing errors. YTT operates on YAML structures instead of text-based templating. The first thing YTT does when it is processing a YAML template, it parses that file as YAML. YTT takes YAML in and renders guaranteed valid YAML out. This eliminates the need to count spaces or escape codes, including pipes and filters for indentations, as in traditional text-based templating. So users can now focus on their configuration needs instead of issues associated with text templating. YTT uses YAML comments to annotate structures so that it's no longer text templating, but structure-aware YAML templating. Another issue you might be well aware of pain of maintaining patches or edits in configuration files manually by following same steps every time you do the deployment. For example, say if there is a third-party YAML and you need to make changes to that YAML that you don't own. So when you have such source YAML and you can't make changes to the original file, you may need to make changes and keep track of the changes or keep log of it for future edits. Solution that YTT provides here is advanced configuration via overlay feature to capture the edits needed and apply to the configurations. So overlays are basically logical edits, and with YTT overlays, patches are articulated on the YAML structure instead of edits based on the line numbers. So the maintenance of these files becomes as low as possible. It works with your own YAML as well as third-party YAML configurations. Another problem you might have faced is when you need to template and apply patches together. You need to learn and work with different tools for that, which obviously increases the complexity. So YTT allows you to template and patch as needed together to easily make your configurations reusable and extensible. One more advantage of using tool like YTT is, would you like to be sure that your configurations are secure? Definitely yes. Like no secrets getting exfiltrated, no network calls are made. YTT provides secure, fast, and deterministic execution. YTT execution environment is hermetic and side effect free, with no access to file system, network, time, randomness, and operating system interfaces. This guarantees that templates produce identical output with the same input. Your configuration changes only when you change it. Now let's start playing with YTT on YTT's playground. This is an interactive playground, and we'll start by working with simple hello world example. Then we'll just slowly introduce extracting variables, using functions, loading data values, using conditionals, if ends, and using for loops. So let's get started. I'll open my playground here and share that window here. This is the interactive playground to see YTT in action. If you are new to YTT, these are some examples organized by topics so that you can familiarize yourself with YTT's key features. If you are more advanced user and if you need a quick way to validate how YTT would render your files, then you can put your files using add file option over here and run it through YTT and see YTT in action, what output you will get. So let's start with a simple hello world example here. In this example, on left, we have simple template and we are attaching a string to the title. Hello world, welcome to YTT. Yeah, so these kind of examples I've added. I'll not take too much of time here. People can obviously go on YouTube and watch these. We will upload the link to this tutorial series on our website and along with the timestamp. So advanced users or who are already a little bit familiar with it, they just want to go to examples, they can view them, all these examples. So I'll just show a couple of them, like I have this timestamp here. So from, for example, here, here in this example, we are extracting variable with name as a front-end service. In the next example, say we are using data values file and extracting data values and using them in our config. In this example, we are defining a function. So this tells you how to use functions in YTT. This is another example where, so I'll just run this for loop example and if conditional example, and that's it. That's what we can do for today. And then people can go through these tutorials as and when they get time. Basically, look through all the values that are present in. Saw how to use functions, and we saw how to extract variables. We saw how to use data values to get the values that you need. Now, the next section is we will see how we can use conditionals and for loops. So this is our example. Now, what if I have multiple services added in the data values file? So say this is my one service called front end, and I have another service called backend. And I want to generate the configurations for these two services or any new services that can get added on the fly. So for that, I need to basically look through all the values that are present in this values file and then generate the configurations. So let's see how we can do that. For this service, I'll add a for loop here. Before that, I have to add for say service in data.values.services. And I'll add in over here. This is how I will add a for loop. And so for name, instead of taking it directly from data values name, I'll add service.name. So now this name is getting rendered from data values file, and I got two separate configurations, one for front-end service, one for back-end service. This front-end is appearing because I have it hard-coded. I'll update it here as well. So now, as you can see, this is the configuration for front-end service, and this is the configuration for back-end service. So for each new service that gets added to data values, you're gonna get entire Kubernetes service manifest. And this is showing you the power of for loop. And for end user, you write one line and you get the whole manifest. For example, name, and I say add default. So I got one more default service over here. Let me update the version as well. So I'll add a version. 0.1.0, and that I need to page like this. So all of these configurations get the same version. If I make any change, it all gets reflected. This is for loop. Now say if I want to add HTTP and HTTPS support for these services. I want to support say only HTTP for front end and not for back end. Let me first add few lines over here. Ports, this kind of configuration. So here, as you can see, it is appearing for all of these services. So I need to make it conditional. Like I want the HTTP only for front end, and HTTP is not allowed for backend. So how do I do that? For that, I can add something like say allow HTTP true and say allow HTTP false. And for now, I'll just remove this default. And then here for HTTP, I'll just add if service dot allow HTTP true, then show this chunk. And so now, as you can see here, I'm configuring the services. I'm configuring how these services are being exposed. And this is how we are making the chunk of YAML optional. So as we see here, front-end service, and only front-end service has HTTP allowed and backend service does not have. So yeah, this is how we can use various features of YTT. Let me get back to the presentation. Another way you can try out YTT examples is through the terminal. So to see YTT in action locally, you need to do few steps, like follow a few steps as mentioned here. These are available on the website too. So I'll share my screen for the terminal, and so let's see here. And right now I have already installed YTT. I've installed through BrewTap, VMware Tanzu, Carvel, and then reinstall YTT. So if I do YTT version, gives me the latest version that I have. And then I have already cloned the examples repo, but you can clone it using this using examples directory. You see these kind of examples that you can try out. So to try any of these examples, so for example, I'll cd to example plain YAML, and it has one YAML file. It's basically an example file that shows you all the common data types. So to run this kind of file, you can directly give ytt-f dot, and that will give you the output, or you can give directly full path of the YAML file. So that's it for today. Please let us know how you find these tutorials to get started with your YTT journey, and stay tuned for upcoming tutorials. Thank you so much. Happy templating. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Awesome job, Varsha. Thanks for sharing that. Any questions on this? Okay, so for those watching from home, just a reminder, you can go check out the full video when we upload it to YouTube. I'll be sure to share that on Twitter and make sure everybody has access there. And if you have any feedback or questions, please feel free to reach out to us. All right, let me share my screen again. All right. So as far as content goes, it's not limited to just the team. So if you have something that you are working on with Carvel, or you have anything interesting you want to share as far as your knowledge with Carvel goes, we would love for you to sign up here in this weekly content sharing post that we have. You could add your name, date that you wish for it to be published, the topic on which you're going to be talking on, and the type of medium you're going to be delivering the knowledge. So it could be a blog post, a video, podcast, anything that you are most comfortable with. We ask that you add that there. And if you have a Twitter handle, you can add that, and we'll add it to the promotion when we do the tweet. And additionally, we would love for you to come and join the community meeting itself so that you can talk about what you are sharing, and so that people can ask questions live as well. If you do sign up and you post something, we will send you a t-shirt as a thank you. Moving on to releases. So image package 0.33. Joao.
Hey, so the best release after the previous one for September. There you go. So image package. Two things to note about this this particular version. So we made a big change on 0.32 that changed the way image package handles keychains. That by default, it no longer uses keychains. What does this mean? It means that if you're inside a IaaS, sometimes you can authenticate using, for example, like the GCP services, or you can authenticate using the Azure services internally. Previously, image package was just doing this by default and just trying to connect to these services. Like the logic has changed, and now it's not going to try that. And you have to tell it that you want to authenticate to those services. So there was like a minor issue there where you could only provide one. You can provide more than one. So this is what is being fixed on that with that bug. To be fair, like there's really no reason for you to authenticate with more than one IaaS because you can only run that single instance of image package in a single place, but who knows? So that, and we kept on expanding our API. Now taglist is also available. That basically, I'm not sure like how to explain what this does, but it basically lists tags. Okay. So that's it. Like we're gonna keep on expanding on our APIs to add more things as there are some requests for copy as well. So maybe that might be something that we'll be adding next on our API.
So question, is there like a regression in the behavior now where before you were able to auth with multiple IaaS and now you can only specify a specific one?
No. So the difference and the breaking change is that like we changed the variable name that you're using. So previously, by default, image package was trying to see if you had GCP installed or if you were if you had like the Azure tooling installed and trying to connect to it or the EKS and so on, and then went on and tried to authenticate you with a different method. So that stopped, that no longer happens. And now you have to explicitly tell it, I am on this particular IaaS and I want you to enable that keychain. So this is a breaking changes here because we changed the variable name that you use to provide that information. Plus,
so I was listening and I understand all of that, but my specific question was about what you were talking to about authing with multiple IaaS providers. And is it a regression from the previous behavior that you were able to auth with multiple and now you're not able to?
When you say regression, like that was fixed with this?
Was it changed where before you didn't have to specify anything? I have like say the Azure and GCP tooling installed at the same time. Can I do operations on both at the same time? And now I can't.
So this only works for IaaSes, right? So like you need to be on that IaaS in order for this to be working. Like for these keychains to work, so there are like a couple of principles that need to happen. First of all,
I mean,
like
people do like Google Cloud stuff on Azure. Like
what do you mean?
Deploy a GKE cluster to Azure. So like there's weird edge stuff that I can imagine. Like it's not very common, but I just want to know like if there was a behavior before that's now not possible.
So it is still possible, right? Like, and this bug here. So on the previous version, we changed the behavior in itself of image package, right? And the problem with the change of the behavior is that there was a bug on it where you couldn't provide multiple keychains. You could only provide one. It was a bug, right? And the bug was fixed on this version. So from 33 on, you can again specify the keychains. Previously, image package was doing it by default. Now you need to tell it, I want to use these keychains.
Okay, so you can use multiple keychains. Okay, perfect.
You can.
So no, there's no regression. There was a bug with multiple things before. Now
there was a regression, but it was fixed here.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. Thanks.
Any more questions? Back to you, Nancy.
Thanks, Joel. All right, moving on to status updates. What's the team been working on? Project roadmap, anything changed or updated since last meeting?
I don't think any changes have been made in here since the last meeting. This is always a good prompt for Reino and I to come in here and update it. So I think a number of these things are still holding true. It's just the timelines of them are needing to be adjusted. So Reino and I can update that, but nothing to report on my end. Reino, anything that you want to add?
I have updated the timelines for kapp and k-control. I think so the October timeframe is there and we want to hold to that. So we are hoping to make a k-control release probably by 20th. And if there is, I think if there's a kapp-controller release also happening, I think we should sync up on that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you both. Any questions on the roadmap? Okay. All right, moving on to backlog staff. Image package, working on improving the output of describe command. Joel, on to you.
Maybe I can give some light on that since I'm working on it. So it's basically previously image package. If you're trying to describe a bundle, and if it failed for some reason to get any image, it would just fail and it just stopped the process, right? And this was causing people having some problems, especially because we also by default try to find if there are images, if there are signatures associated with the bundles. And some registries behave in a strange way where they, instead of saying that they can't find it, they give you an authorized error. So they just stop. Like if for some reason you didn't have a signature, it would just fail and you wouldn't get any information back, right? So this is going to change the output a little bit, where it's going to do everything that it can, and in the end, it's going to display you the full information that it has, including if there was an error trying to find those images. So that's the work that's implied on that particular command.
Any questions on that? All right, moving on to vendor, working on some found bugs and preparing to make a new release.
If nobody wants to chime in, I can chime in on this one as well. We've had some contributions here. Vendor is about to be released, a new version of it that contains a couple of interesting things. For example, you will not need to have image package installed anymore in order to use Vendor. It will just have everything on it. So you don't need to install Vendor and image package if you're pulling images and things like that. So that's a new thing that's going to come up on the next release. That's already there and done. So we found a bug that Sanushri is fixing right now as we speak, and as soon as we have that settled, we will create the new version. So basically, it is a problem where you can tell Vendor not to unpack a particular tar file, and if there's anything after to sync, it just fails because there's an issue. So Tertiary is taking care of that. So at the same time, Pete, well, I think, forget his name. I think it's that. He made a PR as well to fix a little bit of a problem on Vendor. That was the fact that even if there was no change in nothing to be pulled from Vendor, the second time you do like a Vendor sync, Vendor would rewrite the log file. And this was causing some problems, for example, for make files. He had a make file where he was running something if the Vendor log file was changed, and this was causing it every time that he did a Vendor sync, the make file was had like the file at the new date, so it was always running those actions. And now from after his PR, the Vendor will only write the file if there's something new. So those are like basically the three big things I believe are going to come out on the next version of Vendor. That will happen somewhere this week, I hope. Any questions about the 20 minutes of talk from me? Awesome. Nancy, take it on from here.
All righty. Next up, we got Kapp. Exploring how we can be as kind as possible to the API server. Wrapped up work around the new max duration annotation.
Yep, I could probably add like some context to that. So Praveen and Tanushree have been sort of exploring, like making a tree of sorts of all the calls that Kapp makes today. And they're sort of trying to figure out what are the sore spots, like which calls are more frequent or more taxing on the API server, and sort of figuring out if we can do things better. And the second annotation is something that allows users to specify a max duration for a resource using an annotation. I'm sorry, it's not called max duration, it's actually called renew duration. And what that does is the main use case was actually for, let's say, a user wants to check if a certificate is older than a certain amount of time and trigger an update on it if it is, right? And so, yeah, so that's the use case that's addressed using this annotation, and we sort of completed that work last week. Yeah, I think that's it for Kapp.
Awesome, thank you so much. Any questions on that? All right, on to K-control. Continuing refactoring work, removing cluster dependency while package authoring, wrapping up work on generating open API schema for Helm charts wrapped as packages. Who can talk more about this?
Yeah, I'll probably talk about that as well. Okay. So the refactoring work is just some like cleaning up that we've been doing, nothing that the users will notice. And so removing the cluster dependency here means, so when KCTRL is building images while releasing a package, what it does is it uses kapp-controller's reconciler to run the commands, but instead of deploying the resources, the end goal here is that Cable reads a Cable config if available, creates those images, and then like resolves all of the images in the config that's there. So the way it was set up today, the user would need to have a cluster connection to release packages, which shouldn't be the case. So that's something we are planning on changing. And so the generating open API schema for Helm charts is KCTRL provides users with like a 3 or 4 step process, which lets you wrap a Helm chart into a Carvel package. And so for packages which have, let's say we are building a package from config which has some YTT value schema files, we were generating an open API schema using that. So what's new is if you're wrapping a Helm chart now, we'll be reading the values.yaml file that a lot of Helm charts have commonly and generate an open API schema out of it. So yeah, that's something we're working on. We plan on closing that out this week. That's it.
Thanks, Sumik. Any other questions here?
Rohit, do you want to add on the kind of comments that we are looking on to generate this open API schema?
Yeah. So what we have seen is that the Helm expects a valid YAML file, right? And not necessarily that a valid YAML file will generate a valid OpenAPI schema as well. So there are, these are very, very edge cases, but maybe users can, the not so properly validated Helm chart values file can have the, for example, in an array, they can define many items with the same key value pair. For example, the environment, it can have multiple name and value as a pair. So what we are doing is we are following what YTT does today, which is that at least for help, we will be generating the default value out of the only the first array item and will not consider generating from rest of the array items. And based on the feedback, we'll see if we want to enhance that. So YTT actually limits that today, that you can't have more than one items in the array. But on Helm, there is no restriction like that. And then also around the description for a key, Helm doesn't have any strict format over there. Like the comments can be starting with hash or hash and the key name or double hash and things like that. Or like Bitnami follows a very separate set of templating. So at least to generate the description for a key, we are following hash, double hash, and hash with a key name. So we will be generating based on that. If there is anything else apart from that, maybe we are not doing that as now. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Rohit.
So any inputs like how we can improve it, or if you have seen some other use cases which we should definitely handle, so those suggestions you can drop in.
All right. Thank you so much. Any questions or comments? Okay, we've got about 8 minutes left. Is there anything the team wishes to discuss before we part ways? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week. And we meet every second and fourth Thursday. So if you're watching this from home, please come join us live. That's at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We'd love to meet you and hear more about how you are using Carvel. So with that, we hope to see you next time. Have a good day.